Our parents should be proud. Our ancestors are certainly smiling upon us, for we have done it. We have reached the apex of human ego and pleasure. We can see several things affecting our society in ways that are technically a negative, that bode very poorly for the future. The first story: binge drinking has doubled among American women without children in just 12 years, study reveals. But how could we live in a society where violent crime is collapsing, where women are free to be alcoholic drunkards who double the amount of binge drinking in just 12 years? Keeping in mind that 12 years is a semi-generational gap, meaning as time goes on, the future generations drink a whole lot more. And this brings me to the next point, that fertility rates are at record lows. How could this be? Well, we have no responsibility. And I know I opened the videos, I'm kidding, right? Obviously, these are really, really bad things for the future. And I don't know what the solution is, but I'll tell you this. The point I'm trying to make is we are now in the self-gratification generation. Everything is about the individual. Everything is about the ego and the self. Nothing is about the community or the common good. Now, people will claim they're fighting to make the world a better place, but that's not really true. Almost all of what we see, I mean, look, there are people who actually are trying to make the world a better place. But from video games to internet rage bait fights, everything is just about instant gratification, instant satisfaction. Actually, I don't know if you saw the Joe Rogan podcast with Joe, Jocko, and Tulsi just the other day, but Jocko was pointing this out, that everyone expects everything to be instant gratification, and he's right. It's how the news works, it's how the debates work, it's how humans are now functioning. Everything is on a condensed timeline. So these two stories I highlight not as like a dig against women or anything. I know a lot of people might be angry. Whenever I do videos about relationships and stuff like this, there's like outrage. But let me tell you something. First of all, if we're looking at a generational issue where, here's what they say. In 2006, 21% of women between 30 and 44 who didn't have children reported binge drinking. That number doubled to 42% by 2018, according to New Columbia University and Washington University research. Now, there's a lot of reasons for it. It could be depression. It could be alcoholism. It could just be boredom or self-gratification. But what happened in 2006, or from then to today, that's resulted in so many American women binge drinking? You'll probably hear from a lot of traditionalists that without children, they're going unfulfilled or something like that. I don't necessarily believe that's the case. I think in some instances, probably. But I think what we're seeing is everyone is being told that the world is about you, especially millennials. They've been called the me generation. So one of the reasons that people had kids in the past was, I think primarily, it was just what you did. It was like you grew up and those were your things you were supposed to do. So people got married, they had kids, maybe people weren't happy. But then there's also the sense of duty. And I think this falls more into religious circles, right? That it's your job to propagate your, to pass on your genes, to create a new family. And there's a lot of reasons why people have families. But today, everything is about you and what you need, what you want, what you deserve. That's why on Twitter, everyone's always complaining about how they're offended. That's why businesses are bending over backwards for 10 people who complain. That's why one person will make 10 accounts and pretend to be 10 people, because everybody wants something to satisfy them, just for them, nothing else. Where do we go from here? Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not super concerned about people binge drinking for the most part. Like, if you want to get drunk, hey man, more power to you. But this is ultimate, I don't know, it's really just the ultimate individualism. And people are masking that with collectivism. They're pretending like they care about other people, but really everything they're pushing politically is about empowering themselves. But I don't want to focus too much on the drinking thing. I wanted to highlight this, I know it's about women. I think that was interesting, but let's just be real. Like, everybody is drinking, right? Everybody is partying. Everybody is gaming. Men are not going to school. Men are not growing up. They're not getting married. They're not having families. This is happening more and more. The result of which, record low fertility rates. Now, there's actually interesting points being brought up in this New York Times story, because they simultaneously claim that when there is an opening in the market, meaning there is a need for certain roles, people have families. Like, we need certain amount of people for certain jobs, and when the resources are available, then we have families. They also then say that we shouldn't worry because immigration is replacing the lost children. So the kids who aren't being born are being replaced by new immigration. But think about what that means. It means that if you have an availability of 10 houses and you have, 100 people, you can have 10 more families in the next generation. But if you bring in immigrants, there are no extra houses. We have a housing crisis. We have a homeless crisis. And so with the record immigration we've had, it makes it increasingly difficult for the United States to carry on in a communal sense. Now, look, you're going to find a lot of people on the left saying, so what? People can do whatever they want. And you know what? I kind of agree. And this is the big challenge with being a staunch individualist. This is what you'll see, okay? People want to trigger that dopamine. So they play video games all day. So they go to naughty adult websites. They don't focus on what they can do for someone else. They don't focus on planting the tree whose shade they know they will never sit in. So I'll tell you what. The point I was making in the very beginning about our ancestors smiling upon us, we did it. We won. Congratulations. All that hard work you did planting those trees, we are sitting under an abundance of shade while fruit falls into our laps and we have nothing to do. There's no great struggle. There's no great war. There's no need for responsibility. Robots are doing half the work. And we as wealthy Americans sit back in our lazy boys, watching sports, eating chips, playing video games with nothing to do. And our women are binge drinking. But isn't that what the goal was, to make a better life for everybody? At what point do we stop? How good could it get? And when does the mission cease to exist? If somebody had to live in dirt, they're like, what can I do to make sure my children have a better life? Build a nice house, make it last for a long time, plant some trees, and then when they pass, there's a house, there's trees. But now everyone's got everything. There's no duty, there's no work. And maybe it's an inversion of cause and effect. Maybe the reason people aren't fulfilling a mission. Maybe the reason they're not getting jobs, maybe the reason they are playing video games, maybe the reason women are binge drinking is because they aren't having families. They have nothing to fight for. There's no kids who they must protect. Now, for a lot of people, there are. And I'd be willing to bet that if you looked at someone with kids, they would fight twice as hard to make sure they got a good job, they got a good salary, either man or woman. They probably drink less. Not everybody. But I think what we're seeing among low fertility, drinking, gaming, men not going to school, it has to do with the fact that people aren't having kids. And I also think it may be the result of all of this, all this stuff we were told when we were kids about how bad it was to have kids, right? They didn't want teens to get pregnant, so they, beat us over the head with like, oh, you can't do it, you gotta be safe, you gotta do all these things. And it led, in my opinion, to a lot of people who are like, no, we can't do it, we're not safe, we're not ready. Whereas the previous generations just did it as a thing, right? It was like, now's the time to do it. And, I read some stuff about, families and how people plan children, and they say, there's never a right time. No matter what you do, there will always be challenges. There will always be a roadblock. And it's people who just have kids who end up having families. Now that we've been told over and over and over again, there's not enough resources, schools are bad, and we have all these problems, nobody wants to do it. Combine this with the people who are saying climate change is so dangerous, we can't have kids. And you're not going to have people who are tied to a community, who are looking for support, who want to succeed and plant that tree that their kids will sleep under. So think about what this means for the future. If people are primarily driven to make a better future because they had kids, I'm not saying it's true, I'm just saying if that's the case, and they don't have kids, there's no reason to make a better future, right? It stands to reason, and the future will be kind of bad. I don't know what's going to happen. I think simultaneously we have a couple problems. Look, if millennial women are binge drinking, I think that's a problem. Like, I don't drink. And I think it's fine to have spirituous beverages on occasion and get drunk. Yeah, no problem. Do your thing. But binge drinking, doubling in 13 years, that's kind of crazy. And then look at the rates of men going to college dropping dramatically. Well, I take that back. I'm actually not a big fan of college anyway. So if these guys are getting jobs, fine. But we have a ton of guys who are unemployed, single, losers. And I don't mean it to be completely disrespectful, but I think about what it means to succeed and to win, to build something, to accomplish something. And I'm not saying loser as an insult. I'm saying, like, there are winners and there are losers, man. And, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but if you don't work, if you don't get up, if you don't walk, if you don't build, then you're not winning anything, okay? And I mean losing in the literal sense, not a derogatory way. If you're somebody who finds yourself sitting around playing video games, man, you got to get off that. I play video games all the time, but that comes secondary. That's a hobby. That's fun. That's like, you're like relaxing. And for the most part, how many people are building? How many people are having families? And the number seems to be going down. Check this out. Let me read some of this story for you from the New York Times. The rate of births fell again last year, according to new government data, extending a lengthy decline as women wait until they are older to have children. Also, let me go right back to the self-gratification reality. You have men and women who want to succeed in their career to make themselves more, either wealthier or more successful, to accommodate their life. I don't see people as launching careers because their goal is to have a big family. I know some people feel that way, but in the end, everything has become about the self, not the community. We have no shared purpose, America in the past several decades, way back when, like the moon, right? We went to the moon. A lot of these things were like, what was our mission as Americans together? What did we believe in? We don't really believe in anything anymore. I mean, what are Americans fighting for today? Orange man bad. No, for real. It's like you've got people who support the president because he says he wants to make America great. And there are people who feel part of that community, and the other people hate those other people. There's no grand unity among the United States to build a better AI, to challenge the artificial intelligence being produced by China. There's no great mission. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to do anything. In fact, many people on the left outright hate this country. And I know it's hyperbolic because they always made fun of conservatives for saying that. But listen, they march through the streets chanting, "Make California Mexico again. Make Texas Mexico again." They complain all day and night about what America does. They accuse America of being the worst country on the planet, of being unsafe for women. They don't care. It's not everybody. It's a growing faction on the left. So what do we have to see? What does the future have in store for us? Now, I will say this. The fertility rate is down, but as I showed you, going back to 2006, conservatives are actually still having more kids. So maybe this trend will reverse itself as, many of the immigrants that are coming in are religious and they're going to have a bigger sense of purpose and faith. Now personally, my philosophy, not a big fan of religion. I don't need religion to guide me into working hard and accomplishing things. But a lot of people who don't have that don't care. They see no purpose in life. There's no grand reason. And there are a lot of people who find faith, and faith becomes their reason to do right, to serve the Lord or something like that. And there are advantages to that in terms of creating a society with longevity. So I'll put it this way. Right now, I think it's fair to say we are the me generation. Okay, millennials, I don't know about Gen Z yet, they're still kind of young. Less so, going back, but millennials for sure. It's all about what I want, what I deserve, what I should have. And I mean, you look at a lot of what the Democrats are running on that millennials support, and it's complaining about billionaires have too much. They shouldn't exist. It's like, I don't care if a billionaire exists, dude. I take issue with a lot of the ways billionaires can exert power over government and policy for sure. But if someone builds something up, whatever, man. They'll tell you that these people are stealing, that we should tax them, all of these things. And it's like, listen, man, at the end of the day, I liked what Cory Booker said when we need to talk about entrepreneurship and creating wealth. We need to focus on individuals and why they don't feel fulfilled. We need to focus on individuals, what will motivate them. And what I'll say to anybody who finds themselves like sitting in their parents' basement playing, Warcraft or whatever game you kids are playing these days, Outer Worlds, literally just start doing something. Like, even if it's nothing, literally just go up and walk as far as you can. If you have no idea what to do anything. Within reason, right? Okay. But I used to just walk around, like when I lived in Seattle briefly, I'm like, I had no idea what to do. I went and I walked all around the city to various neighborhoods. I went to different shops, and I just tried learning and looking and listening. You got to start somewhere. And I know for a lot of people, they just don't know where to begin. But maybe that's what you got to do. But I'll tell you what. Let's look at the future. Let's take a look at everybody right now who's all obsessed with themselves. Well, they're gonna die. I mean, humans do. They're gonna get old and they're gonna die. What comes next? What's after Gen Z? What will this country look like with declining birth rates? What will it look like with people who have no purpose other than enriching themselves? It's really funny how you have all these people, all these Democrats talking about the billionaires and how they shouldn't exist, and that it's greed. Bernie Sanders says billionaires are greedy. They're addicted. Well, I look at literally anybody else, man. The same thing that drives the billionaire to be a greedy addict who wants to claw at money and value is the same thing that drives literally anybody else. Why do you have somebody who's desperately trying to become, a senior manager at a digital marketing firm in New York City? What men and women alike? Anybody who says like, I want to be better, it's all rooted in the exact same thing. Some people are smarter than other people, so they figure out how to navigate that system. I know a lot of people on the left want to call it exploitation, but how do we get over that? And how do we start encouraging people to plant trees in whose shade they know they will never sit? I have no idea. I mean, I gotta be honest, I don't even know what I'm doing for the future, right? I sit and complain on the internet. Is that gonna make the world better? I don't know. I hope. I mean, I'm doing something, right? That's all I can really say. So, the point of this video wasn't to complain about women drinking or not having kids. The point was to highlight that men and women alike in this generation, they're not doing anything. Look, I get it, man. It's great to be the CEO. Great, you're a mid-level manager at a marketing firm. What does that mean? Because eventually you'll die and someone else will come in, and then what? Do we really need a lot of these jobs? I honestly don't know. I don't think so. So what? But I'll tell you this too. What's the point of perpetual communal growth? Should it matter if somebody has a family and then in 50 years there's an America to live in? I mean, if the goal is to make the world a better place for everybody, I think we're headed in the wrong direction. And in the coming years, there's going to be a decay in expertise. There's going to be a bunch of self-interested, selfish addicts drinking and doing drugs. Yeah, you're going to have that great job. You know, it's fascinating to see that the military-industrial complex is all run by women, but is that really changing anything? I don't know, man. So anyway, let me wrap this up. Like, the point I'm making is, I go back to what I said in the beginning, that our ancestors are smiling upon us. We have reached the pinnacle of what we should ever hope to strive for. We have eliminated diseases. We are sitting in temperature-controlled buildings, for the most part. Not everybody. I'm talking about America for the most part. We have heat and air conditioning. We have clean water. Like, we had nothing to worry about. Food is so abundant, we're all becoming obese. We got hot water on demand. We got electricity. We live in a futuristic, utopia almost. It's like Louis C.K. said, everything is so great, but everybody is still so mad. But at the same time, we are facing the expansion of the dystopia. So I say utopia in the sense that, like, could you imagine 100 years ago the idea of no disease, medical care, to the extent that it is? Not everybody can afford basic care, but you have basic care. The idea of air conditioning, that you wouldn't have to sweat. You could literally sit in a room and it feels like springtime forever. It's kind of crazy. But it can't last forever, can it? With all of the complaints about the environment, climate change, the end of the world, etc. Well, nothing is being done to make the future better. But I guess if you're concerned about overpopulation, then perhaps a declining fertility rate is exactly what the climate change people want. I don't know, though. I don't think the issue is not having kids. I think the issue is instilling values in the next generation to make sure that, things get better. But I guess what's the worst case scenario? Humanity fails, ceases to exist, and the Earth travels on doing its thing. And then maybe in a couple, 100 or tens of millions of years, a new intelligent form of life emerges and says, wow, look at those people who used to exist and don't anymore. These are all philosophical questions I'm not going to get into. I'm just going to leave it here. I don't know. Let me know what you think. I just saw these stories and felt like it was worthy of a rant, I guess, asking the question, where are we going? What are we doing? We're doing nothing. Why? Whatever, man. We'll see what happens. Stick around. I will see you all at 4 p.m. on the main channel, youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out.